In a cozy diner nestled in the heart of Nashville, 26-year-old Sarah Matthews worked tirelessly. She wasn't just a waitress, she was a dreamer. Her dream? To open a community center where kids from underprivileged families could explore music, a passion she held close to her heart. Every dollar she earned went toward this dream, even if it meant long hours and late nights. One rainy afternoon, a sharply dressed man named Victor Lanson walked in. Known for being one of the wealthiest men in the country, Victor was a tech mogul who believed in testing people's limits. That day he was looking for inspiration and maybe a bit of entertainment. Sarah served him with her usual warm smile, even when he ordered the most complicated dish on the menu. Watching her work with such dedication, Victor became curious. When Sarah returned to the table with his meal, he smiled slyly and said, "I've got a proposal for you. Quit your job right now and I'll give you $1 million cash." The diner fell silent. Other customers turned their heads, forks paused midair. Sarah's eyes widened as she processed Victor's words. $1 million? It was more than she could earn in a lifetime. For a moment, the thought of her dream came rushing back. This money could open the community center tomorrow. But something about the offer didn't sit right. She cleared her throat. "Why would you do that?" she asked cautiously, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Victor leaned back in his chair, smirking. "I like to see how people react when they're faced with a life-changing decision. Consider it a social experiment," Sarah frowned. "So you just want to see if I'll sell out my job for money?" "Something like that," he replied, shrugging casually. "Look, I'm giving you an out. You're working hard for what? Tips and minimum wage? Take the money and walk away. Do something better with your life." The room buzzed with murmurs. Some customers whispered, "She should take it," while others shook their heads. Sarah felt the weight of their stares, but she also felt something deeper stirring inside her. This wasn't just about money. This was about her values. "Let me think about it," she finally said, her voice calm but firm. Victor grinned. "Take all the time you need. I'll be waiting." That evening, Sarah sat alone in her tiny apartment. The envelope Victor had handed her earlier contained a cashier's check for $1 million. No strings attached, he had said. All she had to do was quit. The money could solve everything, her debts, her community center, even her mom's overdue medical bills. But something gnawed at her. Her late father's voice echoed in her mind. The real value of a person isn't what they have, it's what they give. Those words had shaped her dream of building something meaningful, even if it meant starting from scratch. The next day, Sarah returned to the diner. Victor was waiting, sipping his coffee. His confident smirk told her he expected a simple answer. "So, have you made up your mind?" he asked, setting his cup down. Sarah nodded and placed the check on the table. "Here's your answer." Victor's smile faltered for the first time. "You're giving it back?" he asked incredulously. "Yes," Sarah replied, "because quitting on my dream for a paycheck, even a big one, wouldn't make me proud of who I am. If I walk away now, I'd always wonder if I could have made it on my own." For a moment, Victor was speechless. Then he laughed, a genuine booming laugh. "You're either the most principled person I've ever met or the most stubborn." Sarah smiled. "Maybe both." Victor leaned forward, his curiosity now fully piqued. "You're quite the anomaly, Sarah," he said, tapping the table thoughtfully. "Most people would have taken the money without hesitation. Tell me, what's your dream worth risking all of this for?" Sarah hesitated. She didn't owe him an explanation, but something about the question felt genuine. "I want to open a community music center," she said, "a place where kids can come after school, learn instruments, and stay out of trouble. It's something my dad always wanted to do, but he never had the chance." Victor raised an eyebrow. "Admirable. But do you really think tips and minimum wage will make that happen?" "I know it won't be easy," Sarah admitted, "but I believe in hard work, and I believe in this dream. I'm not giving up just because someone dangles a shortcut in front of me." Victor seemed impressed, but he wasn't ready to let the conversation end. "All right," he said, leaning back in his chair, "I'll sweeten the deal. I'll give you the $1,000,000 to start your center. No quitting required. The only catch is, I want something in return." Sarah's heart leapt, but she kept her composure. "What do you want?" "I want you to prove it's worth investing in. Show me you can raise $50,000 on your own within the next 6 months. If you do, I'll match it 20-fold. The challenge was staggering, but Sarah saw it for what it was, a test of her commitment. She squared her shoulders. "Deal," she said firmly, extending her hand. Victor shook it, his eyes sparkling with intrigue. "Let's see what you're made of." As soon as Victor walked out of the diner, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and pressure. Raising $50,000 in 6 months felt impossible. But deep down, she knew this was her chance to turn her dream into reality. The stakes were higher than ever, and she was determined not to fail. Sarah started by brainstorming ways to raise funds. Her first step? Rallying support from her community. She reached out to friends, family, and regular customers at the diner, sharing her vision of the community music center. Many were inspired, offering small donations, or even volunteering their time to help. She created a crowdfunding campaign, writing a heartfelt story about her dream. The page gained traction as people across the country shared it online. Within a month, she had raised $10,000, a promising start, but still far from her goal. To keep momentum, Sarah organized local events. She hosted a charity dinner at the diner where musicians performed for free, and every dollar raised went toward the center. The night was a success, pulling in $5,000, but Sarah knew she had to think bigger. One evening, as she cleaned the diner, she overheard a customer talking about an upcoming community fair. An idea sparked in her mind: a talent show. It would showcase local performers and raise funds through ticket sales. The community fair was Sarah's golden opportunity, and she poured every ounce of energy into organizing the talent show. Flyers were posted on every bulletin board in town. Socials, media announcements spread like wildfire, and local businesses chipped in with small sponsorships. It felt like her dream was finally gaining traction. As the event day approached, Sarah faced unexpected obstacles. The venue she had reserved fell through at the last minute due to a scheduling error. Scrambling for a solution, she reached out to a local church and secured their hall, but it came with added costs she hadn't budgeted for. To make matters worse, ticket sales were slower than expected. With less than a week to go, she was still far short of her fundraising goal. Sitting in her apartment one night, Sarah felt a wave of doubt. What if she couldn't pull this off? What if she let everyone down, including herself? But quitting wasn't an option. Determined, Sarah doubled down. She spent every spare moment promoting the event, handing out flyers, and calling local radio stations to drum up excitement. Her persistence paid off. On the day of the fair, the hall was packed. The show was a hit, featuring young musicians, spoken word artists, and even a surprise performance by a famous country singer who had heard about Sarah's mission online. By the end of the night, Sarah had raised an additional $20,000. It was a massive success, but still left her $15,000 short of her $50,000 goal. Then, just as she was packing up, a man approached her. "I saw your crowdfunding page," he said, handing her an envelope. "This is from me and a few friends who believe in what you're doing." Inside was a check for $15,000. With the $50,000 goal finally achieved, Sarah felt a mix of relief and nervous anticipation. She knew Victor would hold up his end of the deal, but she also knew he wouldn't make it easy. The following morning, she called him. "Well, well," Victor answered with a chuckle. "I wasn't sure you'd pull it off. Tell me, how'd you do it?" Sarah explained everything: the crowdfunding, the talent show, and the unexpected generosity from the community. Victor listened silently, and when she finished, there was a pause on the other end of the line. "Impressive," he finally said. "Meet me tomorrow at my office. Bring your plans for this center. I want to see if you're as good at execution as you are at fundraising." Sarah spent the night preparing. She sketched detailed blueprints, outlined program ideas, and listed projected budgets. When she walked into Victor's sleek, glass-walled office the next day, she felt a pang of intimidation, but she refused to let it show. Victor sat across from her, scanning her presentation with sharp eyes. "You've got passion," he admitted. "And now you've proven you can rally people behind your vision. But passion and money alone won't cut it. Tell me, how are you going to sustain this center for years to come?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I plan to partner with schools and local organizations to secure grants. I'll also host annual fundraising events like the talent show and offer affordable lessons to cover operational costs. My goal is to create a self-sustaining model." Victor leaned back, his expression unreadable. Finally, he nodded. "You're smart, Sarah. Smarter than most people I deal with. Let's make this happen." With Victor's agreement secured, Sarah's dream was closer than ever to becoming reality. True to his word, Victor transferred $1 million to her account within days. But he added one more condition. He wanted to see the center open and operational within 6 months. "I don't invest in empty promises," he said with a sharp smile. The challenge was monumental, but Sarah embraced it. She quickly found a modest building in the heart of the community, using part of the funds to secure the lease and renovate the space. Volunteers flocked to help her, many of them the same people who had supported her during her fundraising efforts. As the months passed, Sarah encountered more hurdles. The construction was delayed due to permit issues, and a storm-damaged part of the roof just as they were finishing renovations. Each setback chipped away at her timeline and her confidence. One night, while reviewing her shrinking budget, she received a call from Victor. "How's progress?" he asked. "Slow," she admitted, "but we're getting there." "You know," he said, his voice softer than usual, "most people would have folded by now, but you're still standing." "Why?" Sarah paused. "Because this isn't just about me. It's about the kids who need a safe space to dream and grow. I can't give up on them." Victor didn't respond right away. When he finally spoke, there was a new tone in his voice. Respect. "Keep pushing. You're closer than you think." Those words stayed with Sarah. Over the next few weeks, she worked tirelessly to finalize the center. By the end of the 6 months, the building stood ready, complete with classrooms, practice rooms, and a small performance stage. The grand opening of Sarah's Community Music Center was set for a Saturday afternoon. Invitations had been sent out to the entire town, and even some local media outlets planned to cover the event. But as the day approached, Sarah's nerves began to build. Would anyone show up? Had all her efforts truly been enough? On the morning of the event, she stood in the empty performance hall, going over final details. Volunteers were setting up chairs and decorations, while a group of young musicians rehearsed on stage. Sarah glanced at the clock. It was almost time. Then, as the first guests began arriving, her fears started to melt away. Families poured in, curious to see the center and eager to support its mission. The air buzzed with excitement as parents toured the classrooms and children marveled at the instruments on display. Victor arrived fashionably late, of course. He walked in with his signature smirk, but paused when he saw the packed room. For a moment he seemed genuinely surprised. Sarah approached him, her confidence shining. "Well?" she asked, motioning to the lively crowd. Victor nodded slowly, clearly impressed. "You've outdone yourself," he said. "I expected something good, but this is exceptional." The highlight of the evening came when a group of kids performed a song they had written together during the center's trial workshops. The audience erupted into applause, and Sarah couldn't hold back her tears of joy. After the performance, Victor stood to address the crowd. "I came here today as an investor," he said, his voice carrying through the hall. "But after seeing what Sarah has built, I leave here as a believer. This isn't just a music center, it's a beacon of hope." As Victor finished his speech, the crowd erupted in applause. Sarah stood at the edge of the stage, overwhelmed by the moment. This dream, which had once seemed so far out of reach, was now alive and thriving. Tears welled in her eyes as she stepped forward to address the audience. "Thank you," she began, her voice trembling. "This center isn't just my dream. It's ours. It's proof that when a community comes together, we can create something truly extraordinary." The applause grew louder, and she took a deep breath. "I want to thank every single person who believed in this project, from the volunteers to the donors to the kids who are already making this space their own. And to Mr. Victor Lanson, thank you for giving me the chance to prove myself." Victor, seated in the front row, gave a small nod, his usual smirk replaced with a genuine smile. For the first time, he looked less like a billionaire mogul and more like a man inspired by what he saw. As the event wound down, Sarah noticed Victor lingering near the stage. She approached him, still riding the high of the evening. "What did you think?" she asked. He crossed his arms, looking around the bustling hall. "I think you've done something incredible here," he said. "But I also think you're just getting started." "What do you mean?" she asked, curious. Victor's expression turned serious. "There are kids like these all over the country, kids who need a chance. If you're willing, I'd like to fund more centers like this." "One, you've proven you can handle the challenge." Sarah was stunned. "Are you serious?" "As serious as you were about turning down $1 million, he said with a grin. Sarah stared at Victor, trying to process his words. "You want to fund more centers like this one?" she repeated, her voice filled with disbelief. Victor nodded. "That's right. I've seen what you can do with limited resources, and I believe in your vision. There are countless communities that could benefit from a place like this, a safe haven for kids to explore their potential. I want to help you make that happen." Sarah's heart raced. This wasn't just an opportunity to expand her dream. It was a chance to change lives on a scale she had never imagined. But the enormity of the offer also intimidated her. "I don't know if I can manage something that big," she admitted. Victor raised an eyebrow. "You built this center from nothing, Sarah. You've inspired an entire community and proven that you don't back down from challenges. You've got the drive, the vision, and the heart. And I'll provide the resources." She hesitated, her mind racing. Then she thought of the kids in her community, their smiles, and the joy the center had already brought. If she could bring that same hope to other towns, how could she say no? Finally, she extended her hand. "All right," she said, her voice steady. "Let's do it." Victor shook her hand firmly. "You won't regret this." The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Victor connected Sarah with his network of philanthropists and entrepreneurs, and together they began laying the groundwork for the expansion. Sarah traveled across the country, meeting with communities, scouting locations, and sharing her story. A year later, Sarah stood in front of a brand new music center in a small town in Texas. It was the second of what would eventually become a nationwide network of community centers. As she watched children excitedly explore the new space, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Victor, who had flown in for the opening, approached her. "How does it feel?" he asked. "Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be," Sarah replied with a smile. He nodded. "You've turned a simple offer into something extraordinary," Sarah laughed. "And to think, I almost took the easy way out." Victor grinned. "I guess I owe you for teaching me something about perseverance." As they stood together, the sound of music filled the air, a symbol of the dream that had started in a small diner and grown into a movement. Did Sarah's story inspire you? Let us know in the comments how you would have responded to Victor's initial challenge. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more uplifting stories like this one. Share this video with someone who could use a little inspiration today.